Welcome everyone to the Snetterton 300 circuit and the next rounds in the inaugural season for the Ginetta GT Academy. It's their second race of the weekend, this their third event of the season. And yesterday's race unfortunately cut short due to a red flag, but was still very entertaining while it lasted. Angus Whiteside then has the pole position from Gilbert Yates alongside him, a pair of rookie drivers on row one. Then Roy Alderslade and Julian Watling, the top two in the GTA class. Then row number three, we have got Toby Trice, championship leader, and Wes Pearce alongside him. SVG Motorsport ahead of Elite Motorsport. Then it's Martin Wills and Darren Leung, another one of the rookie drivers. Two more rookies are next on the fifth row. Tom Hartley Jr. ahead of Danny Dwyer, that's 9th and 10th overall. Then it's Gary Wager and Lee Goldsmith sharing the 6th row of the grid. On row 7, Neil Wallace, the only non-finisher yesterday, ahead of Sean Fleming. Hopefully Neil has got out on track for this one, with Ed Akers rounding out the 15-car grid. So the Ginetta GT Academy then, as I said, in its debut season, and it's been an intriguing season so far. We've had some brilliant racing, actually. Toby Trice has done an awful lot of the winning. He's won 5 of the 7 races that we've had so far. He actually won the first 5 races on the bounce, including a clean sweep at the season opener and championship opener, in a way, at Brands Hatch at the start of the year. And his winning run, though, came to an end in the 3rd race at Donington Park earlier in the season, and then he, in yesterday's race also, was unable to get the overall win. He did still, though, take the GTA class victory. There are 2 classes of driver. The cars, though, are all these identical Ginetta G56 GTA cars, derived from the most successful GT4 chassis in history, made by Ginetta. And this is a series that's sort of suitable and aimed towards track day enthusiasts, entry-level GT racers. Ginetta very good at taking drivers from being complete racing rookies to sometimes going on to race at the very highest level of GT and sports car racing. And who knows, some of these drivers that we're seeing at the front of this field may well be able to do much the same thing. 5-second board then is shown. We are ready to go racing in the Ginetta GT Academy then, here from Snetterton for the 2nd time this weekend. Waiting for those lights to go out then. On pole position is Angus Whiteside. Out go the lights. Good start made there by Wes Pearce in the white number 32 car from the 3rd row of the grid. Wheel to wheel, though, for the race lead. Down towards Rich's corner on the inside. The green car of Whiteside hangs on to the advantage. And that's Roy Alderslade moving into 2nd place. Down to 4th then is Gilbert Yates from the outside of row 1. There was one car, I think Danny Dwyer that was, slow away at the back of the field, but they are now all off the line and making their way through the first few corners into the Wilson hairpin, then change for 2nd place then. And that, I think, is the really rapid starting. Wes Pearce from 6th on the grid to 2nd already as they go out of Wilson and down towards Palmer's for the first time. A rocket ship start that was then from the 32 car. And Wes Pearce on a mission. He's sideways, though, up through Palmer's for the first time of asking. Cold tyres, of course. They don't run on slick tyres, these G56 GTA cars. And they are Michelin road tyres, admittedly quite a sporty road tyre, but they don't yield as much grip as a slick, and that is quite hefty contact, I'm afraid. Tom Hartley Jr. gets elbowed out of the way by Darren Leung. They were 2 of our sort of podium contending rookie drivers. Leung definitely has damage to the right front corner. I'd be surprised if Hartley Jr. has got away with that as well. And so certainly one car, I think, heading for retirement, maybe another, and you have to say that one was certainly not Tom Hartley Jr.'s fault, was it? So that's sort of split the pack a bit now. They were running mid-grid, and you can see the delay that's caused to the 2nd half of the field that works its way out through Williams and along the Bentley straight, bit wide there over the grass and through the water splash that's kind of formed with all of our overnight rain here at Snetterton. On the grass there, coming out of the right-hander, down into Brundle and Nelson they go. Attack being made there by Martin Wills, but he's not quite close enough to make that one work. That's Wes Pearce, I think. That is Wes Pearce ahead of him then, is it, according to the... no, I don't think that timing screen is updated yet at the end of Sector 1. Time penalty for number 33, which is being given a time penalty for being out of position at the start. That's Neil Wallace. I did think I'd seen one car that wasn't quite where it should be, and it was Neil, and he's been given a 10-second penalty for that, so that will be added on to his race time at the end of the 20 minutes of racing. Out to Murray as they go then. Whiteside will lead the opening lap of the race then. And in 2nd place is Wes Pearce, so it is the white number 32 of Wes Pearce 2nd, then 3rd place Roy Alderslade, 4th Gilbert Yates, 5th only for Toby Trice, and this is the replay of Darren Leung. He's a long way behind Tom Hartley Jr., goes to the inside. I do think that was an attempted overtake. He was just way too late on the brakes, and he gets into the side of Tom, and Leung never made it out of Sector 1. Hartley Jr. did, but hasn't yet completed the lap. So I think Tom is trying to limp back to the pit lane. In fact, there he is, look, just behind Neil Wallace, who is in now to serve a penalty? Well, no, because it wasn't a stop-go. It was a 10 seconds added on at the end of the race type penalty. So maybe an issue then for Neil Wallace of some kind. Anyway, we'll get to the bottom of that as and when we can. Down into the Agostini hairpin, there comes the third place battle. Then this is Roy Alderslade, Gilbert Yates and Toby Trice, third, fourth and fifth. Toby Trice, the championship leader. He doesn't have a huge championship lead, though, because when he hasn't been winning, he's actually not been on the podium overall. So his overall championship margin is not quite as big as you'd imagine, something around 40 points. As I started to say at the start of the race, as there is Neil Wallace in. I don't know whether that's a problem or whether he's got confused with the penalty, but anyway, he's in the pit lane and losing ground. Yes, two classes of driver. The cars are all exactly the same, though. You have the rookies, who are the rookie drivers, surprisingly enough. Then you have the GTA class for those with a bit more experience, but the cars themselves are identical. So we saw yesterday Angus Whiteside, a rookie driver, winning the race overall. There is also an overall championship then in which the rookies can go toe-to-toe with the GTA class drivers for overall points. Off the road, look, has gone number 44. That's Martin Wills in the Pink Panther. And he rejoins the track, and that's all a bit dodgy. He almost gets collected by the number 7 of Gary Wager, who didn't quite know which way to go there. So Martin Wills then ejects himself from 7th place, where he was running. The battle for second, though, is the most entertaining one at the moment, isn't it? Because Wes Pearce can't live with the pace of the race leader, and so is starting to fade and come under increasing pressure here from Roy Alderslade. There is the lead gap. It was 2.7 seconds. It's more than almost doubled that time to 5 seconds now. 2 minutes 7.8 for Angus Whiteside. Plays a 2 minutes 10.1 for Wes Pearce. And now attacking him, look, is the number 8 of Roy Alderslade. Sorry, Gilbert Yates, excuse me, who is going to try and get the run here coming out of the right-hander at Wilson. So Alderslade has dropped behind Yates and Trice on that lap, which I think was happening as they went through Grundle and Nelson, as we saw Wills head off into the runoff area. Out to Palmer's they go. Yates attacking at one corner, then ends up defending at the next because Toby Trice had a better exit from Palmer's. Looks to the outside, dives back to the inside. Can't quite do it there, though. That was a difficult move to attempt. He'd have almost been better off just going around the outside, I think, and carrying the momentum off the corner. Toby, as I said, won the first 5 races of the season, but certainly at Brands Hatch did not make life easy for himself. He won the very first, the second race of the weekend at the last corner, and it was, I think, at the start of the last lap that he took the lead for the first time in race 3 as well. So Toby Trice, although he was the quickest driver in those first couple of events, certainly wasn't error-free, and he makes a bit of an error there going out of Williams and onto the Bentley straight. He had the front of his car covered in mud after yesterday's race, did Toby. And there's a bit more grass tracking there, although the car comes out of it a little bit cleaner than it did in yesterday's first race. For the curbs, really aggressive line being taken there by Gilbert Yates, the number 8 car. There, Roy Alderslade then. So, as I said, he fell back a couple of positions on the previous lap. And he is starting to ask all the right questions here of Toby Trice in 4th position. Toby, you can see, dropping away, partly because he's defending, partly because of that mistake at Wilson. Into Murray's corner they come then. This is the 3rd lap about to be completed. 13.5 minutes still to go. And across the start-finish line come our 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then even 6th place, really, because Julian Wantling is catching this group a bit in the number 28 car. Then it's Ed Akers. Now, Ed Akers in 7th place, number 20, started last. So that's a really good effort, that, from Ed Akers, who was given a 5-place grid penalty for causing a collision, so he didn't qualify last, in fairness to him. Martin Wills there goes past Gary Wager. That's for 8th place, but it's the car just ahead of them, of Ed Akers, that has really been making some good moves now. Back to the fight for second, Wes Pearce and Gilbert Yates. 6.5 seconds now adrift of the leader, so only about a 1.5 seconds slower than Whiteside that time. But there is a mistake there from Pearce. He's a bit wayward coming out of Palmer's. And does that now give Gilbert Yates the inside line? Yes, it does. 2nd place they go. Up the inside he goes. Can he get the car stopped, though? No, he runs out too wide. And so Wes Pearce does go back through into 2nd place. So brilliant battle, that. Gilbert Yates got the move, but then ran too wide. And now has only 12.5 minutes left in this race to try and get the position back. That was good racing, though, from these two. So Gilbert Yates has to try and reassess that. I think he saw that that was his chance to do it, but he got maybe a bit carried away in the next braking zone. Did well to get to the inside, actually, though, because Wes Pearce really tried to crowd him over to the edge of the road, and Gilbert Yates stood his ground, wasn't having any of it. But now, look, it's brought Toby Trice back into play now in 4th place. So Toby Trice, he's second in class at the moment. So Wes Pearce, the white number 32 car, is leading the GTA class. Toby Trice, the blue, orange and white number 22, is second, but he's not anymore. He's in the lead because off has gone Wes Pearce into the barriers through Brundle and Nelson. And that really was an unforced error because he wasn't under any immediate threat that time from Gilbert Yates. But it's so easy to do. Through Brundle, you are braking whilst turning left, which anyone who's ever done a track day or driven a racing car will know is a very difficult thing to do. And it's a really bumpy braking zone as well, and you'll see the rear there snaps loose, and he just can't quite get it back. Rattles down the barrier. Not too much damage done, though. He should be okay to get to the finish, but obviously that takes him out of 2nd place, and more significantly, perhaps, out of the GTA class lead. So Toby Trice will now inherit the GTA lead, and 3rd place overall, much as he did yesterday, really. He didn't start at the front of the GTA class, but he did manage to get into the lead by the end. The GT Academy race yesterday was the one that was cut short because of the really unfortunate fire in the paddock, and I'm sure many of you will have seen that mentioned on social media. Thankfully everyone okay, but it was a rather spectacular blaze as one of the race trucks went up in flames, and unfortunately it meant that the GT Academy race had to be red flagged partway through, understandably of course, so the rescue services could get through to the paddock, but it meant we didn't quite get to see the race come to its natural conclusion. Let's hope that we get to the end of this one. We're nearly halfway now, 10.5 minutes to go in a 20-minute race. Gilbert Yates then with Toby Trice all over him. Now Toby will know that he is now leading his class, and I doubt he's going to want to take any huge risks here to clear Yates, but this is the quirk of the fact that there are not just class championships but an outright championship as well. So in some other categories of racing, things like the GT5 Challenge, for example, where there is a pro and an AM category, there wouldn't be much sense in a AM driver, for example, trying to race against a pro because you don't score any extra points for beating the pros. But in this championship, it is different. So Toby Trice, although he's already leading his class, if he could get himself ahead of Gilbert Yates for 2nd place overall, that would bag him more points in the outright championship, a championship that he leads at the moment. But he'd quite like to extend that margin, of course. It's Angus Whiteside who is 2nd in the overall standings. And of course, Angus already has 1 win this weekend, and it looks odds-on favourite now for another. Angus Whiteside actually won the 3rd race at Donington as well, so if he wins this one, it would be a 3-race winning streak for Angus, and you wouldn't bet against him, would you? He was 8.9 seconds nearly up the road of 2nd and 3rd place at the end of the previous lap. That's likely to have gone up again now. It's 2 minutes 7.9, the lap time for Whiteside, the race leader. Through comes Gilbert Yates in 2nd. He does a 2 minutes 8.2. It's a personal best, but it is 3/10 slower than the race leader. So Yates 2nd, Trice 3rd, Alderslade 4th, then the fight for 4th, Julian Watling and Ed Akers. So Ed Akers, the orange number 20 from the back of the grid, is now 6th, of course, after the spin for Wes Pearce, who incidentally is running 10th after that rotation. But Ed Akers is not happy with 6th. He wants to try and get 5th place away from Julian Watling. And it's a similar situation here, really, for Akers. He is a rookie driver. Watling is in the GTA class. They're both actually running 3rd in their respective classes, but there are extra points in the outright championship up for grabs here. So Akers wants to get through for that reason also, just because he's charging through from the back of the grid. It's a racing driver's natural mentality is to attack, attack, overtake, overtake, and when you come up against a car that you feel you're quicker than, you just want to get past it. It doesn't really matter whether it's for position, whether it's for points, and in this case, though, it is for both. So Ed Akers is going to go for this. He might have the overlap now. In fact, he does going into Hamilton, but he's not even halfway alongside, and he does the sensible thing there and backs out of it. If you run through that corner wheel to wheel, it's almost always going to end up in contact. And the last thing Akers wants is another penalty now, after the penalty that he had after yesterday's race, which put him at the back of this grid in the first place. Out onto the Bentley straight then. 7 3/4 minutes now remain. As you can see on the timer at the top of your screen. Gilbert Yates still holding on to 2nd place from Toby Trice. For Alderslade looking increasingly lonely actually in 4th. Not lonely at all though is Julian Watling, the Seto Motorsport driver, watching his mirrors here. Gets a bit sideways, but not quite as sideways as ANGUS, who really did have a bit of a tank slapper there as he got on the throttle. These cars, not the most powerful cars in the world, but because they run on these road tyres, they don't have much traction. So if you do floor the throttle, the rear will step out on you pretty quickly. So Roy Alderslade then ahead of Julian Watling. There goes the race leader. Angus Whiteside, fastest lap that time, 2 minutes 6.958. So the gap goes out to 9.7 seconds. He was about 3/4 of a second quicker that time than Gilbert Yates, who now actually is 1.3 seconds ahead of Toby Trice. Both of those drivers did personal bests that time as well. So that is a natural pace advantage, I think, for Gilbert, who sits only 7th in the overall standings coming into this weekend. He had 2 non-finishes, one at Brands Hatch and one in the very next race at Donington Park. ANGUS to the inside, maybe of Julian Watling. He can't quite get there though. This Seto Motorsport driver just hanging on. His teammate, Roy Alderslade, is actually the next car up the road in 4th, albeit 4.2 seconds ahead. Seto Motorsport, of course, will start on pole position for the second British GT race later on this afternoon. So, sure, the team will be cheering them on in that as well, but Seto Motorsport synonymous with Ginetta, and good to see their involvement now, not only in the One Make series, but also taking Ginetta back into British GT with some success this season, it must be said. Unlucky not to have had a race win already. That little challenge there really faded for Ed ANGUS, didn't it? He closed in on Watling, but then did sort of fall back again through this infield section. A lot of corners come at you in quite a short space of time in that infield. Out of Wilson, through the lefts at Palmer's, Agostini, Hamilton, then the rights at Oggies and Williams, and out onto that Bentley straight again. So if you make a mistake, it can really hurt your momentum then through the next sequence of corners as well. Toby Trice closing back in, I think, there on Gilbert Yates on this lap, so maybe he did make a mistake on the previous lap. We're going to see a replay here of what happened to ANGUS and Watling into the hairpin. Big lock up there for Ed ANGUS, and actually I think Julian Watling saw him coming there and sort of opened the steering out, and now they're almost overlapping into the bomb hole. That is not a good place to go side by side. And again, ANGUS can't quite get fully alongside, so he keeps backing out of these manoeuvres. You've got the recovering Martin Wills behind as well after his off-track excursion at the S's earlier on. So that's going to add to the frustration here for ANGUS. Back out of the final corner, Murray's then into the final quarter of the race then. 5 3/4 minutes to go. And across the line go these two. Nothing separating Watling and ANGUS here. 0.3 of a second is all between the number 28 and the number 20 car then. Through the first corner they go, and back towards the right-hander. Watling defending busily there on the inside line. Now, is that rain on the camera lens at Wilson? I think it is, and you can see the car sliding around a bit more than usual, so this is going to throw extra spice into the mix. It's raining quite heavily, I think, actually, at the top end of the circuit. That is the direction the wind is blowing from, so the weather is coming in from Rich's, Wilson, Palmer's, and it's just arrived, actually, at my commentary position halfway down the pit straight. So I think this is going to be quite a dicey final 4 minutes. This is kind of what the forecast was for the day, these patchy showers coming in throughout the course of the event, much as we saw yesterday, really, with maybe some slightly heavier rain around this afternoon. But it's full rain is one thing. The drivers can sort of prepare for that. They can change the setups. They can make sure they're on the right tyre if that's relevant. Not in this series, of course, but with the when it's changeable like this, it's different at every corner sometimes because of the way this layout weaves and winds its way around. That's Williams. You can hear the screeching of the tyres again. Martin Wills there, the pink car, by the way, being warned about exceeding track limits. I did spot he just ran a bit wide out of Hamilton, and again there out of that previous corner through Williams. So the race leader then, Angus Whiteside, has an 11.1 second lead. He'll be quite grateful of that now because he can take it a bit easier through the rain. Ed ANGUS very circumspect there through the S's, but then even the sideways goes Martin Wills. Oh, he's around. He's broadside across the edge of the road and just about gets avoided by the next group of cars. That sequence of corners have not been kind to Martin Wills in this race. He's been off twice there now, but that looked again like it was just a result of the inclement weather. They were all really slithering around as they went through Brundle and Nelson that time. They're going to have 2 more laps of this as well. So if the rain sticks around, it's only going to get more and more slippery. Here's the replay look. So ANGUS is really slow. He's really backing off in the wet conditions. And I think Martin Wills saw that as his chance, but then he was too eager on the throttle coming out of Nelson, and around he went. So the Pink Panther, unfortunately, pointing the wrong way at Nelson, but he has rejoined, and he's going to cross the line, possibly just at the back end of the top 10. Yeah, 10th place for Martin Wills now. 2.25 minutes to go, and lap times in the low 2 minutes, sort of 2 minutes 8s and 9s now that the rain has arrived. He should have 2 more laps, including this one. And this battle still rages on. For 5th place then, Julian Watling, Ed Akers, 5th and 6th. 3rd place in GTA for Julian Watling, 3rd place in the rookie class for Ed Akers, who's going to close in again here. Is he into Agostini? Now it looks a lot brighter here than it did a lap ago. So I think the rain has stopped now. The sun's coming back out again over the start-finish straight. This really stiff breeze that is blowing across the Snetterton 300 circuit is moving the weather through very quickly. So although it gets damp for a lap, the next time through it's bone dry again. Of course, the wind will also help with the drying process should it get really wet at any point today, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So Seto Motorsports, Julian Watling comes through Oggies into the right-hander at Williams. Both of them a little bit wide of the apex there, it must be said. On the previous lap, by the way, for the first time all race, Angus Whiteside was not the fastest man on the track. He's sensibly, I think, backed off when the track started to get slippery. He's still 10.6 seconds, though, ahead of Gilbert Yates, who is 1.4 ahead of Toby Trice, 2nd and 3rd. Roy Alderslade 3.6 seconds behind them, and 7 seconds ahead of this battle for 5th, as Ed Akers, this time around, now that it's not raining anymore, is a lot more committed through Brundle and Nelson, and starts to build up for another challenge here then against Julian Watling. Through the bomb hole, into Coram Corner they go. And Murray's is a potential overtaking opportunity. But is Akers close enough to do it? I'm not convinced that he is. Through the left-hander, defensive line though was taken by Watling. Now that slows him down on the exit. This is Akers' opportunity. I think he was quicker off the final corner. He's in the slipstream as they go through now to start the final lap. Ed Akers is possibly going to be getting a bit frustrated. He's had 2 or 3 half goes at this. He needs to fully commit to a move, maybe not at Riches, but possibly at the next corner. He takes a really early apex there compared to Julian Watling in front of him. Through the double apex right-hander now. Is he close enough to attack? Watling thinks that he might be, so he moves to the middle of the road to cover. But from this angle, you can see that actually Akers wasn't really that close at all. So unnecessary defence maybe being put up there by Julian Watling, but better safe than sorry, I suppose, is his attitude. So confirmation then we are on the final lap of this 8th round of the 2021 Ginetta GT Academy, the 2nd race of the weekend. Angus Whiteside looking odds-on favourite now for his 3rd victory in a row, if you count the race last time at Donington Park. He is 9.7 still clear of Gilbert Yates. Top 4 look pretty settled. This is the first of the real battles for 5th place overall. Martin Wills, by the way, after his spin, doesn't look like improving on 10th place. He's 5 seconds behind Wes Pearce, who, of course, has had his own dramas in this race. Neil Wallace, by the way, after his pit stop, did return to the track. So Neil Wallace, he's a lap or 2 down, so he was in the pits for a while, suggesting there was a problem even before his 10-second penalty was applied for an out-of-position start. But he's not going to be a factor in this. Tom Hartley Jr. also continued, albeit a lap or 2 down after 2 visits to the pit lane to fix damage. Darren Leung, though, the man with whom he tangled on lap 1, out on the spot. So, into the final sector of the final lap. Ed Akers not close enough quite there again to get up the inside of Julian Watling. It looks increasingly likely that these two will stay in the same order to the flag. Angus Whiteside hasn't really had any company all race long, but it is going to be a 3rd victory in a row for Angus Whiteside then, his 2nd of the weekend here at Snetterton, to close the gap on Toby Trice in the overall championship standings. Toby is going to come home 3rd, of course, because he really fell away from Gilbert Yates there towards the end. Yates comes home in 2nd place. Trice will win the GTA class, but only 3rd place overall ahead of Roy Alderslade. Then for 5th, bit of a drag race to the line maybe here. Julian Watling with Ed Akers in the slipstream, but he's not going to get there. I don't think the cars are too evenly matched in a straight line, and Watling will hang on to that 5th place. Then Akers 6th, and they both come home 3rd place in their respective classes. And Ed Akers pulls up alongside Julian Watling, I hope to congratulate him for what was a pretty entertaining scrap, which ran for most of the second half of the race there. Good job that from Akers, though, from the very, very back of the grid after that 5-place grid penalty. Had a clean race as far as we saw, and worked his way into 6th place overall. It's Angus Whiteside, though, that takes another race victory. We didn't see much of him, but that sometimes can be a good thing. When you're in the lead of the race, it usually is. And Angus is really starting now to build some championship momentum. He had not had a bad season even before he started winning races. had a podium at Brands Hatch, but that was then followed by a non-finish in the third race. But then he had 2 more second-place finishes at Donington, followed by that first win. And since then, he hasn't stopped winning. So Whiteside is possibly now looking a little bit quicker than TOBY TRICE. If that continues, we've got another race still to come this weekend. That race, though, that we just saw actually marked the halfway point of the championship, because we will have one more race this afternoon, 3 races at Silverstone on the national circuit later in the season, and then back at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit at the British GT finale to round out the championship. So if Whiteside can keep this run of victories going, which you wouldn't bet against, certainly at least as far as the third race goes later on this afternoon, he's going to be a tough man to beat in the title. He's certainly going to start closing in on TOBY TRICE a bit more than TOBY is comfortable with. So Whiteside, the winner in the rookie class. TRICE still wins the GTA category, and of course they're both still leading their respective class championships. So you've got the overall championship battle, but also the GTA and rookie class championship fights to keep an eye on as well. It's Whiteside then that wins, Gilbert Yates second. They are first and second in the rookie category. TOBY TRICE in third position, Roy Alderslade fourth, Julian Watling fifth ahead of Ed Akers, Gary Wager, Lee Goldsmith, Wes Pearce, and Martin Wills after his 2 offs down at the Brundle and Nelson complex. Then it was Danny Dwyer, Sean Fleming, Tom Hartley Jr. survived that shunt with Darren Leung on lap 1, but had to pit a couple of times to make repairs. He ends up 13th, Neil Wallace 14th, and Darren Leung the only non-finisher. Whiteside and TRICE, the 2 class winners. So, excellent racing once again from the 2021 Ginetta GT Academy. They have another race coming up later on this afternoon, as I said. That one due to get underway at around about 5 to 3 local time. We hope you'll join us for that one, the third and final race of the Ginetta GT Academy later on today.